Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to First Seed Sports or First Seed Fantasy, however you want to look at it, because we're fantasy on Instagram. But either way, we're here. We're going to talk some, fantasy football. We are in, I think it's mock draft season, but pretty soon it's going to be draft season for these redraft leagues. So I'm here with my good friends, Mike and Dante. I am Kyle, and we're here. We're here to talk some draft stuff, some ADP guys we love, guys we hate, guys we very much are surprised at where they're being drafted at, and then just value stuff and picks and what you guys like about the draft so far. So let me get started on this mock we got going on in the background, and let me hit you guys with the question of if you had your choice in this draft of where to start or where you're picking from, where would you go? Dante seems to have an answer already. If you had to pick from anywhere in this draft, where would you go?
Believe it or not, I actually would like the pick that you're at, Kyle. If this was a real draft, just to
Back
get
in
that
pick 12?
1-2, yeah, just to get that 1-2 combination of high quality players. It's tough because you would like to get one of the first like 5 picks in generally, just because you get the running back and get a high quality running back. But I do like the fact that you're able to compare, like you're able to like mix and match with the 12th pick if you wanted to get like a wide receiver, a running back, or vice versa. Maybe add a tight end if you wanted to do like Travis Kelce or something like that. So because I have the third pick, though, I am gonna go with Derrick Henry, just because he has the upside of the passing, the receptions. They really seem to focus on that this previous season, and without the injury, I do think he would have went down as the number 1 back. So that's my pick for round 3, or my first round pick. That is the third pick. Yeah.
Mike, if you had to draft anywhere in this draft, where would you pick?
Man, I'll tell you, if I had a preference, if I could choose where I would want to draft, it would be pick 1 through 3, or kind of like Dante said, that last pick, or the last 3, 10, 11, 12. I would even go so far as to say I'd be comfortable with the 4th overall. For me this year, I mean, I'm targeting the early and the back because I feel like there's a huge tier gap. That just isn't worth it. And I think that tier gap literally starts at pick number 5. And I think it goes all the way through 12 and then into the second round. And I just don't see the point of snagging a guy early when I think I'm getting the same value later. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I have the 12th pick in a lot of my, or in my big money league as well. So I'm seriously toned into that 12th pick. Here, I'm going to go Najee. I had the 7th pick overall, Cooper Kupp and Jefferson off the board. I'm going with the volume play there. But yeah, necessarily, I would love that first 3 picks, and then that last few picks, because like Dante said, you could stack the first tight end of the draft there, still get an RB1, still walk out with maybe a wide receiver 1 if you want. I necessarily wouldn't go receiver tight end. But yeah, that's what I would be looking at. What are you thinking, Kyle?
Before it got to me here at pick 12, I was probably going to say any of the first 4 picks just because I love any of Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, and Justin Jefferson. And just being able to have like a pick of any of those 4, I'd be happy with. So I would have probably said top 4, but now I'm looking here, drafting at pick 12, and I see the 2 that I'm going to take right here, Joe Mixon and DeAndre Swift right there. And I think those are 2 incredible running backs that I'm very high on this year. So to be able to grab both of those 2 with the 12 and the first pick of the second round, I'm happy about that. So maybe pick 12 is where I'm looking at. But I've been mocking all over the place. I think honestly, I think it all depends on how you make your picks in the middle rounds to really enjoy your draft. But I think top 4 or bottom 3, basically what you said, Mike. That middle area is a little cloudy for me.
Yeah, and interesting you said that too. My top, I did say I'd go to pick 4. For me personally, I think my 4 top picks in this year's draft would be JT, McCaffrey, Jefferson, and then I'd sneak Eckler in there as well. Those would be my top 4. The tier past that is something I don't really want to touch, and you could throw Cooper Kupp in there. I think that's ultimately one of the safest picks in the league. But I wouldn't want to be stuck taking him that early. I think Jefferson's going to be the number 1, so that's why I left him out of my top 4, and I think Eckler is going to take another leap this year in PPR wise. So yeah, that those first 4 picks, man, beautiful. On this turnaround, I'm going to go with Aaron Jones here. I really love him too. We talked about him the other day. Him being alone in that Green Bay offense, no matter what Dylan comes in to do, you just take last year and you add on maybe a reception or 2 for Jones a game, or even a target, more volume, and that's someone I can't pass on. So I really like that. And I love what you did with the 12 pick too, man. That was my point exactly, is look at the value you got at those 2 running backs. You had Mixon, who was a top 10, Swift, who was top 5 before he got hurt, and last year was being drafted in the 4th round. So huge jump for him. But those 2 guys, you compare them to my 2 guys. Compare them to Najee and Aaron Jones. Who's to say that they're not going to outscore them, you know? So that's kind of why I'm more comfortable either in the beginning where I can get my guy, or the end where I could pick my 2 and then kind of just sit back and let it rock, you know?
I'm still trying to figure out who I want to go with. I think I'm going to hammer the running backs just because the position is so scarce. But Saquon is so volatile, man. Like, I want to just pick him just because I'm a Giants fan, but I feel like the objectivity in me wants to go with Leonard Fournette, just because he has that pass catching upside with Brady. And he also has like the goal line touches, which are tremendous, especially when it comes to fantasy value with the TD upside. With this next one, I am thinking. Let's see, James Conner is an interesting one because he had some touchdowns there. I don't think that is something that can be necessarily guaranteed to be replicated this year. So I'm inclined to go Travis Etienne again, just because you have that PPR upside, you have that chemistry with Trevor Lawrence already, and he's fresh. Like, the defenses don't know how to really approach him yet. So again, I'm going for that upside, but I like Travis Etienne. I put him right there with, Javonte Williams is right before him. I think they can be comparable. What do you guys think between the 2? Melvin Gordon coming back kind of like hindered Javonte Williams for me. That's why I didn't take him. But I'm curious to think what you guys, if you had to distinguish the 2, who would you go for?
Go ahead, Kyle.
I think I would have gone James Conner. I'm a personal fan of Conner this year. I think he's the only guy there, really. They brought in, Darrell Williams, but I don't know. James Conner was a monster last year with Chase Edmonds in the backfield, and since it's almost primarily going to be Conner's backfield this year, I think he's going to be just as big of a monster. And I don't know. ETN coming back from an injury, I feel like they're going to kind of ease him in, and I constantly am reminded that their head coach is Doug Peterson, who could not play a single running back any given week in Philly. So sure. I'm a little spooked, but I like ETN a lot. I think he's going to have a lot of passing game work, but Conner would have been my pick.
Yeah, same. Conner would have been my pick. I would have taken ETN over Javonte. I think Javante's ADP is third round's okay, but I've seen him go in the second round, and I think that's ridiculous. What also is ridiculous is that CeeDee Lamb went 2.7 and Tyreek Hill at 2.9. I think those are absolutely ridiculous picks there. And I'm going to take James Conner here as well, go with the triple running back. But yeah, I think their ADPs are way too high, man. CeeDee Lamb is we've talked about it on multiple shows now where we just think that he's one of the most hyped up guys going into this year because he's kind of left alone and the vacated targets, but that is not how this Dallas offense is going to work. It's not going to go through CeeDee Lamb, never has, never will. I think that's ridiculous that he's being drafted that early in the second. Realistically, I think if we drafted with real people in this instance, I think Diggs and Adams find their way to the second. I don't think that they go early first like that. So that may change the scope of things as well. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill, I feel like that's highway robbery. You just don't do that. As well as Javonte, I think even Javonte is a little early in this draft going at the 3-2. So yeah, Dante, I like what we got going on here. We both went triple running backs to start, and that's kind of why I like that top three. You get one of the top three guys in the league at the position, and then you just get to fill in gold. You get that back-to-back, man, and no third-round reversal as we've been doing the past few months here. So that back-to-back is beautiful, man. Beautiful stuff.
So I'm straight up going to say at the turn here, after going double running back, I'm going to go double receiver just because I see two guys that I love for the season. It's T. Higgins and fan favorite of first seed, Michael Pittman. We all love Pittman. We can't not draft Michael Pittman in one of these drafts. And call me crazy. It was a bit of a reach. He was 5 receivers down, but man, I can't pass up Pittman. I think he's a stud. I have him ranked as let's see here, wide receiver 12. Come on, 11 actually. My bad. I have him as my wide receiver 11. Give him to me.
There's rumblings of him establishing a rapport early with Matt Ryan too. So,
and Matt Ryan makes wide receiver 1s. Come on.
Oh, yes, he does.
He's not
Matt Ryan, he knows who he's throwing to before he snaps the ball, and even if someone's in his face, he's getting it there. So, yeah, that Pittman, man, oof. I got to get Pittman in a few leagues this year. I feel like you got to find a way to get him. 4th round's a steal for Pittman. Realistically, I don't understand why guys like A.J. Brown are going before Pittman. I feel like that's just a name thing. That it's A.J. Brown and it's Michael Pittman, the second-year guy. So, yeah, I'm on the clock again. I got 3 running backs to start, something that I don't normally do, but for argument's sake this draft, I love the 3 guys I got. You also got Team 4 and Team 6. That Sleeper must have hired them and let them smoke a little some before the draft. 3 receivers to start. I'm going to go DJ Moore. I love the aspect that he might get an upgrade at QB, which really isn't an upgrade, but could be. But I love the volume he sees. I think it's going to be a little bit harder with CMC healthy there if he does stay healthy on the year. But wide receiver 1 in the 4th round, I like that there. Guys, any picks in that 3rd round? I mentioned a few in the 2nd that I hated. Any picks in the 3rd round you really didn't like so far?
Ooh. I feel like Akers is going a little bit too high for for myself. I feel like I would have taken both Breece Hall and Montgomery, who went the round after before him. Just personally, I feel like we're going to see a lot more Darrell Henderson in that offense than people expect. But kind of to jump back into the 2nd round, I don't know what Kamara's doing in the early 2nd being drafted there. Considering he is most likely getting a 6-game suspension, I feel like the 2-4 pick is a little too expensive for my blood.
Yeah, I would say, what do you guys think? If Kamara does not get an official suspension before a redraft league starts this year, what round are you taking him? With the risk that he could be suspended any day for 6 games.
Probably early third.
Yeah, I
Probably
feel like
right
you can't.
behind.
Okay.
Probably
Before
right
Montgomery.
behind. Yeah,
Before Montgomery.
I was gonna say right behind Barkley and Javante.
Yeah, I was going to put
It's
him
probably
at
where I'd take him.
Javante, ETN. But even still, I would just stay away from him just because you have that 6 weeks. Like I was doing a couple of mocks before, and they were like teams with the first pick would usually wind up getting Alvin Kamara, so they would end up having like Jonathan Taylor and Kamara at the same time. What do you guys think about like kind of if you have one of those three options already? Like I would say like Kamara, McCaffrey, Henry, even Eckler. If you had like any of those guys, do you think it'd be wise to kind of make that jump and get Kamara just for the chance of having both those options later down the season?
If I had what Team One did with McCaffrey, Elliott, or maybe swap Elliott and Barkley, but if I had those two start, then I'd feel very comfortable taking Kamara because then I can slot Kamara in as my flex when he comes back, or I just kind of load up and grab. Is it Mark Ingram that's still the running back? I can grab him probably in the 14th round and have 3 starting running backs with ease. But I think that's where I'd feel super comfortable taking him.
Yeah, I would say the same. I would say you can kind of play that hero running back kind of strategy that we did 2 weeks ago on the show, where you kind of have your one guy, and it's not really a hero running back strategy, but with a 6 game suspension, I mean, you're going to have arguably maybe the best backs in the league when he comes back. So if you get like that top 3 pick and you get one of the best running backs, and then stack Kamara in the 3rd round after that, yeah, I would definitely consider that, especially if at the time he still wasn't suspended. I think that there would be essentially a big pause there into when he does go to trial at that point. So he might get a few games in. Who knows what's going on? So, but yeah, I like the way things are looking in this particular draft here. Dante, Kyle went over some picks he hated in the 3rd round. Any that you don't like? Any that you can never see yourself take? Or
In the 3rd round?
3rd round, yeah. You could even go into the 4th a little bit. Any that like no matter what strategy you're doing, this guy's just going way too early.
Way too early. How do you got? I'm gonna eliminate the quarterbacks because I just feel like I don't know. Like
That's fair.
I could argue like Pat Mahomes. You know what I mean? Just because we don't know like what that offense is going to look like without Tyreek Hill.
Right.
I could argue. I mean, I could argue Teagan should be taken earlier, considering his production was up there with Jamar Chase when they were both on the field. But let me see. If I had to put one on it, man, I might do David Montgomery. I feel like I would just stay away from David Montgomery altogether.
Okay.
Just because like the Bears offense just doesn't seem like something I want to be a part of this season in general. I think their offensive line is still shaky. And with that, the running game isn't really going to produce as much because of that. And we have to see what Justin Fields can do. I mean, this is going to be the first year where he kind of has full reign. So we'll see like how he kind of ingratiates himself into that offense further. But yeah, I would say Devin Montgomery is someone I would stay away from. DK Metcalf, even with Drew Lock throwing him the ball, who knows what that's going to look like. So yeah, those are the two that kind of stand out to me, I would say.
Dante, I've got a question for you. Because we talked about this in a previous video with Zach. How do you feel about Metcalf this year?
So like
in
Yeah.
for context, in comparison to probably the 4 receivers that were taken before him in DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, and Michael Pittman, how would you compare him kind of in that range? Because I'd probably say this is the group that he belongs in, but where would you kind of like rank him in that area?
So you said DK Metcalf. So you said the people before him?
Yeah, so that DJ Moore,
Okay, DJ
Deontay
Moore,
Johnson, in that range, because that's where he's being clustered in these drafts. I want your thoughts on where he's going or on how he stacks up against that group.
So I think ability-wise, DK Metcalf is better than all of them. But in terms of production, and
if you were to draft him, if you had those 4 or those 5,
I would take Pittman first, just because.
Okay, we're in agreement there.
Yeah, I would get the you have the production, the ceiling is the number one option. Obviously, DK is too, but Matt Ryan's throwing the ball, and they have a way better offense compared to the Seahawks. Terry McLaurin will probably be the next guy I'd take after that, for similar reasons. Deontay Johnson, he's kind of a volatile pick as well. He did really well for me last season, and I love him for that, but he also had Ben throwing him the ball, and we don't know what that offense is going to look like going forward. I keep forgetting who's even the quarterback for them at the moment right now. Who's the starting quarterback though?
For Seattle?
No, for Pittsburgh.
It's between Kenny Pickett or Trubisky.
I believe they said Mitch is going to start the year, but
I think
that's like not official yet. That's just like what they're saying out of camp, I believe.
Either player doesn't give me any type of confidence, so I would put Deontay third there, and Drew Lock is just someone. When he first came into the league, he showed a little upside. Him and that Noah Fant combo could still be a thing, but I feel really uncomfortable. If Russ was still there, I would take him ahead of all these guys, but with that combination with Drew Lock, he makes me want to stay away. So that's why I kind of have DK. I would even take Jalen Waddle ahead of DK at this point, just because you have you have Tyreek that's going to command so much of the defense, and they're both just. I mean, if Tyreek's the fastest, like Jalen Waddle's like second, third, so it's like that's just something you really can't ignore going forward.
The way I put it is, we saw Drew Lock make great players out of both Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and then you add in him at worst, because we already saw DK play with Geno Smith, and it's kind of a competition between Lock and Geno, and we saw DK I think put up just consistent 18 to 20 point games with Geno. So, I think DK is too good of an athlete to kind of be a nobody this year. So to be going around guys that they have upside. I'm not saying these guys are nobodies, but I feel like DK kind of has the same upside as AJ Brown that went a full round before him.
I'd agree with that wholeheartedly, yes.
And I mean, in comparison to Terry McLaurin, I feel like they both have probably very similar QBs throwing to them, and I would take the talent of DK tiers above Terry. So that's where I would I'd go Pittman and then Metcalf and then Terry. But I have them ranked probably accordingly and a little bit separated, but I'm a big DK fan.
It still fits for the Commanders, right?
No, it's Wentz. Fitz retired.
Wentz now, right?
You don't remember we had that full fun argument about best?
Yeah, I mean, I will say too, I was actually going to bring up the point that like maybe I do believe that AJ Brown is in that same tier as Metcalf, McLaurin, and them. I love all the wide receivers except Metcalf in that round and McLaurin. Those are two, like McLaurin's a little bit more comfortable, I feel like. I don't know. Metcalf is a guy I would not want as my wide receiver 1 this year. That's for sure. I don't care if I go tight end, running backs. I don't want him as my wide receiver 1. The 2 I'd be more comfortable with, and the 3 would be golden. but I definitely would look 5th round for him, And I'm looking at the wide receivers here as well. I wanted to bring this up. Every year, there's always 2 wide receivers on the same team that get drafted relatively really close to each other. For years, it was Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. It was always like that. This year, especially in this specific draft, but in ADP in general, Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are going right next to each other. And I feel like nobody's going to get that right until we see it happen. I feel like that's something no one's going to know about. What do you guys think, and who are you taking first?
Between who? Can you say that again?
Between who?
So we're thinking Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Same team here, new quarterback, new everything. They're being drafted right next to each other. Who are you taking first, and how do you feel about them being so close in ADP? You think it's
honestly,
warranted?
bro, like it's tomato for me. They're both like equally. They both equally stand chance to produce the same amount. If you had to put a gun to my head, I would lean Jeudy just because he has the upside. He's just a better wide receiver to me. He can create separation easier. But like again, it's I don't know. It's a flip of a coin for me. Like I don't feel like one really is necessarily the better option than the other, just because like we also don't know like how Russ is gonna. We don't know the chemistry between the receivers too. It's like it's so up in the air.
Honestly, it could be a Lockett DK situation where they both ball out in separate weeks, and it's just kind of like honestly, it could be an either or. And I think that's why they're going really close together. People are ranking them back to back essentially, just because we don't know. And I personally, I'd pick Sutton. I feel like he's more. I think he's somebody we've seen plenty of to understand that he is good. And we've seen plenty from Jeudy to understand he's good too. But I think Sutton kind of fits Russell's, fits his mold a little bit better. And that's just my opinion because quite honestly, Jeudy could be the perfect receiver for Russ. And we just haven't seen that yet.
I would say that if I would say Cortland is more Tyler Lockett and Jeudy is DK in this offense. Like I would probably.
I would say the complete opposite. To be honest, I think Sutton's the taller guy with a bigger frame that kind of has like a limited route tree because of his length. Kind of has to run those like fades and stuff. And I feel like Jeudy could play slot, like run him out of the backfield. Like I feel like Jeudy could do a lot more. It's kind of shiftier, like a Lockett more. I see what you're saying. I would just say like I think Sutton's more of that deep ball guy, like that Metcalf streak comeback slant route kind of guy, and Judy's like Swiss Army knife. Like you could throw him anywhere on the field. He's probably more athletic as well. I don't know. That's interesting. That's going to be something I feel like is going to come down to the wire on draft day. I feel like the ADPs probably won't change unless there's some news out there that happens. But
I also don't think you can really go wrong. It's not like you're going to shoot and completely miss. You're going to draft the wide receiver 2 on a very productive passing offense. Like you're going to like this is similar to drafting Tyler Lockett in the 5th round last year. That paid off. Years before, in the year before, it pays off. You're drafting these guys probably at their kind of where they should be going. I think it's just if we knew Sutton or if we knew Jeudy were going to be the wide receiver 1, they'd probably be 3rd round receivers. I think we're drafting them they're going in the 5th round. I think they'd be going higher if they were the 1, and I think they'd be drafted in the 5th if they were the 2. So I think we're drafting one of them at a steal, and it's just kind of I don't think you're going to be disappointed either way.
Yeah, and it's really funny too. I know in our personal home league last year, even Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, 2 receivers on the same team, literally went back to back last year, and I think Zach was the one that took Chase, and it's just so interesting. Like those wide receiver picks are so hard, and for years everybody was pushing for Robert Woods over Kupp, and I don't think it ever happened. It was damn close some years, But like I feel like that's the same thing. It's like these wide receivers on the same team, man. It's like it's so hard. And if Godwin was healthy this year after what he did last year with Brady, him and Evans would probably be going neck and neck, second, third round, I would say. Maybe fourth if you squeak them in, but like those guys this year, there's those wide receivers are really hard. The only thing you could really look off of is offensive coordinator, quarterback, and essentially offensive line. I feel like those are the three biggest factors that tie into it, other than like health and other personal stuff. That stuff is it's really hard. I try to stay away from some of those if I can. I know I always have a preference on one guy, but it's always in the back of my head that I could be making the wrong pick, and I absolutely hate that feeling on draft day. Let's go Melvin here. Yeah, sneakily, if you guys have been paying attention, Team 6 is off the rocks this draft, man. 6 wide receivers in the first 7 rounds. He's helping my team out a lot. That's what I'll say.
Still ended up with 2 leading backs, though, at the end of the day.
It's very true. Jumping from Judy and Sutton, I want your guys' take on Cordarrelle Patterson. Drafted in the 7th round here, pick 4 of the 7th round. Do you guys have any idea or thoughts on what his role can and potentially will be this year? I've got my opinions, but I want to know what you guys think. And is he draftable?
I would say he's draftable just because he's kind of got that Swiss Army knife kind of ceiling. We don't know how Atlanta's going to use him, but if it's just like last year, then he obviously has that upside. But reports are already saying that he's not going to be like a workhorse back. So I'm kind of hesitant, and he's 31. So that leads me to believe that he's prone to more injuries because of that. And that just makes me want to stay away from him. Also, just Atlanta in general, like besides Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I just feel uncomfortable taking anyone else besides that, besides those 2.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. It's like Cordarrelle for me, he like Dante said, Swiss Army knife, can do everything. He's a guy that I'm probably touching like 8th, 9th round, 10th round, maybe as an RB3 flex kind of guy. It's like that situation has changed a lot. You know, Matt Ryan was running the same offense for years on years there. Brand new quarterback now. And honestly, I mean, Mariota is not really known for one thing or another, really. So, like, he's kind of just like a really good game manager for the most part and not even really good at it. But they drafted the rookie running back. Last year, Mike Davis was the guy who was being drafted way above Cordarrelle. The guy. And that didn't even come close to happening. I don't think he cracked the top 50 running backs, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, they got the rookie in. They say it's promising. I don't know how to pronounce his last name yet. I just call him Algieri until I know how to really pronounce it. I'll wait for Tony Romo to tell me on Sundays. But, yeah, it's like it's interesting. You know, I wouldn't take him necessarily. I don't think he's going to do what he did last year. I think that was kind of just a fluke thing. You had Ridley retire in the middle of the year. You know, they literally had no one. The team was one of the worst teams in the league. They played in a good division. I don't know what to expect from him this year, but if there's already reports saying that he's not going to be as involved in the backfield or wide receiver, vice versa, like one or the other, I'm not touching this guy at all. I don't want anything to do with him. So, like, if I had to, I'd look RB3 flex 8th, 9th round. That's probably what I'm looking at.
I feel like if Debo is like a Sprite, then Cordarrelle is like Sarah Mist. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like I'd rather just like if you're not getting Debo, I'm good. You know what I mean? I could go somewhere else.
I think where I stand with Patterson is he's somebody I would almost happily take as my first bench option. If I've already got my starting running backs, receivers, my flex, maybe my tight end. I like to wait on tight end, so probably not tight end. But if I've got my core spots filled and I'm like, all right, I'll take him as my first bench. No harm, no foul. He's not hurting my starting lineup. But the way I picture his role this season is a receiving option, and that's primarily because it's Kyle Pitts, the rookie Drake London, and nobody else. Like straight up nobody else. I can't even name the wide receiver two off the top of my head.
He's got the long last name, dude.
Olamide Zaccheaus. Yeah.
Zaccheaus, yes.
Great pick with Ingram Dante. And so, like, I think Patterson is just going to be – I think he's going to be a receiver, whether it's out of the backfield or running out wide. I think that's going to be his role in this offense because he's old. Like you said, he's 31. That's old for any position, any receiver or running back. And he's both. So,
yeah, and that's kind of what Deebo Samuel's trying to avoid by requesting not to be in the backfield as much and whatnot. He doesn't want to take those shots, man, and how can you blame him? I mean, Cordarrelle to be doing that at 30 when he was 30 years old last year, maybe 31, that's insane. Props to the man. That's some like LeBron James, Tom Brady type stuff where they're just healthy and they're going at an old age, you know. That's hats off. So all right, wrapping this one up here.
Yeah, you one-up me, man. Like, I get Mark Ingram, but you get Gerald Everett. Like, what the heck?
Come on. You want to trade? I'll happily make that trade.
Probably. Yeah, I probably would.
Now, I guess, because we all kind of followed this strategy, we all did. And I think it's kind of our favorite to go late tight end this season. I feel like that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from all of us here at First Seed, especially you two, that there's a lot of value to be found with late round tight ends, unless you're drafting Kelsey, Andrews, maybe even Pitts. Unless you're getting those three guys early and at a good value, I think we're all very comfortable waiting until these 10 through 12 rounds to get a guy for a tight end spot.
So would you guys feel comfortable? I'm sorry to interrupt.
I was going to hit you with a question, so go for it.
Darren Waller and George Kittle, at what point would you guys take them? How comfortable are you guys taking them in a real life league? And at what point would you take them?
So I'm Kittle over Waller all day, even with his injury history. I'm still Kittle. I think Trey Lance coming in, I have a feeling, obviously, you know what you're going to get from San Fran, the run first, but Kittle's going to be heavily involved just to help him out, I think. Trey Lance, help him out. So I'm taking Kittle most likely in the third round. I would probably go as early as third, not second, third. Latest, probably fourth. Like literally right where he went was kind of perfect here. Waller, I could see sliding to the fifth a little bit. Fourth,
you don't think because it's going to be a run-heavy offense with the 49ers and the fact that the Raiders got Devontae, that they're going to be more like pass-heavy? You don't think that's going to lean more towards Darren Waller's favor than Kittle?
I don't, because I saw what Waller did last year with no Henry Ruggs, and now you just give him the best receiver in the league. I can't convince myself to say that even if Waller gets some of those targets back that weird enough he didn't get last year, I don't see him doing it. They got what's his name now? The new OC. I'm blanking. McDaniels from New England. You know what type of offense he likes to run. I mean, it's hard to say. You know, he obviously has a long history with Gronk. I'm sure Waller will be involved heavily. I think Waller gets better than last year in terms of fantasy production, but I'm not going to ignore Kittle. I think he's the tight end that could actually drop 40 any given week. And realistically, I mean, it's Deebo and Kittle. And those are really the only two options there. Ayuk, not bad. He kind of fell off a little bit last year, too. I think it was a little bit of this, behavioral issues and practice issues, whatnot. I think there's too many weapons in New England for Waller to really be one of those top tight ends. So, yeah, I would stick with Kittle.
let's see. Back to your original question, Dante. I like them both. I think I would also go Kittle over Waller, but I probably would wait. They went in the 4th in this mock that we just ran, but I'd probably wait another round. I'd really need to be comfortable with my team. I would probably would look. I'm looking at my 12th round, my 12th pick. I probably would have taken one of them instead of Allen Robinson at 5th. In the 5th round. So that way I had my 2 running backs, my 2 stud receivers, and solid tight end. That's where I would have been incredibly happy to take either one of them. But, I mean, to be fair, that's the end of the 5th round. So maybe if I were pick one, that would I think 5th round is where I'm super comfortable with taking either of them.
I think Pitts is going a little early too. I don't know how early I would take Pitts over Kittle, to be honest with you. Points per game, I'd give the lean to Kittle anyways. Games played, obviously, I'd probably lean Pitts. So if you're looking for more consistency, but I don't think they should be a round apart at all. You're talking about, I felt comfortable last year with Pitts coming in with Matt Ryan, and then they lost Ridley. And Kyle Pitts took a little bit of a leap. I'm sure only had 1 touchdown on the year, though. I don't know how comfortable I feel with Mariota throwing him the ball, whether it's him or Desmond Ridder. I mean, it doesn't really get my hopes up, man. He is the only option there with Drake London for this year. But it's like, I don't know. I can't trust that. It's going to be a bad football team all year. I'm sure the volume will be there. Worst quarterback. So I don't know. I'd feel a lot more comfortable knowing Kittle's going to be Kittle and that he also has an offense that is molded around him. Not saying Pitts doesn't. I think eventually they're going to get to that where Pitts is the focal point of that offense. It could be this year. I just don't think they're going to be able to execute it with Mariota. So I don't like the round difference of ADP there. If you're going to go Pitts, yeah, probably a few picks before, but I don't know. That was bothering me too as you brought up that question, and I'm looking at the tight ends here.
Back to late round
Pitts this year.
I like him. I like him enough to draft him, but I'm not, again, probably not until the 4th round, but he's going kind of mid to late 3rd, and
right.
I'm not a fan.
I just feel like for what you can get at that position, at that pick as well. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm indifferent on either. I probably wouldn't go with either if I was seriously. If this was a serious draft, I probably would. Let's look at the people surrounding him. I mean, Pittman. I'm gonna go after. I would take Jalen Waddle over both. And I might even do Mike Williams just for that upside. I think Herbert, if I had to we haven't done a positional, I haven't done my rankings yet, but I think I have Herbert as the number 1 quarterback when it's all said and done this upcoming year. And part of that reason is because I think Mike Williams is going to have a big year too. So I would have Mike Williams over him. Let me see. I think it. I would it would become a conversation at the Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy level for me. If they were still there at by the late 5th round for either of them, which I know is obviously probably not going to be the case for most drafts, but that's where I would feel comfortable picking either of them at that point for me personally.
Yeah, I can't argue that. That's probably I'd take him right there. Maybe around before, right, 4th, 5th, something like that. So, yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. The tight ends is such a scarce position that obviously after you get those first 5 guys that go, you kind of got a tier break, and then you got Schultz, and some people, including myself, are throwing Schultz in with that first tier still, the bottom of the first tier, obviously, but. After that, it's kind of a huge drop-off, and that's why all 3 of us, including Zach, are falling in love with these late-round tight ends, That's one of the best things. You win the draft or you win the league at the end of the draft, and you usually try to do it with running backs and receivers here and there that are going to give you that spark. But, nothing would feel better than just hitting on like a Gerald Everett and watching him become a top 7 tight end on the year, or an Irv Smith, a Cole Kmet. Oh, man.
It's partially why I want Gerald Everett, because I'm so high on that offense this upcoming year. I think that offense, them with the Vikings, especially with the way the OC, they got the new OC for the Vikings. I really think that they're going to be something different this year offensively.
I was going to ask you guys for just kind of run through your favorite late round tight end targets. I know Mike listed a few, but man, I love Everett. You're right, Dante. The Chargers offense is going to be beautiful this season. I want every piece of that, and to get Everett so cheap, it's a great entry point into that offense. Irv Smith is by far my favorite. I feel like we're completely discounting his potential in an offense that has a new coordinator, and I think Irv's going to be number 2 in this passing offense. Honestly, I expect him to potentially pass Thielen. Hunter Henry had a great part of his season last year. I think that's not a bad pick. And then I don't know, you see some Noah Fant. I feel like Drew Lock had some sort of rapport with him in Denver that I don't think that's going to completely disappear. Cole Kmet, I talked about the other day on a stream with you guys. I like him. I think he's again going to be a beautiful second target in this offense, in that Chicago offense. And I think 3 of them though is Kmet, Irv Smith, and Gerald Everett are the 3 that if I don't grab Kelsey and Andrews early, I am sitting and waiting for those 3.
Yeah. I have one more tight end point that was kind of bugging me. I'm going into some deeper drafts right now, kind of towards like the 16th, 17th round in some different kind of leagues I'm in. Let's talk about O.J. Howard really quick. Is he going to have an impact in Buffalo? Is he going to take away from Dawson Knox? Because people are not only saying more athletic, they're saying a wider route tree that he can run, bigger guy. What do you guys think? Is he going to be fantasy relevant this year, O.J. Howard?
Let me tell you, if O.J. Howard is more athletic than Dawson Knox, how is he not more athletic than Gronk?
That is a good point. I
think the tight end position, unless he can block phenomenally and really earns those starts, I don't think you can really get in the way of kind of the relationship that Josh Allen has with Dawson Knox and what Brady had with Gronk. I think he's just stepping into a situation and in a position where he's just going to kind of be tight end 2 again. And I can agree he may be more athletic and more agile, but I feel like that's a bond between Allen and Knox that may be a little bit tough to break.
How is he as a blocker?
That I can't speak on too much. I know that he obviously struggled in Tampa Bay. So, I don't know what to expect from him. I don't know about his blocking, though.
I would say, Buffalo tends they do the play action a lot. So I think if depending, I don't even know how Dawson Knox is as a blocker either, but I would imagine that being a factor when it comes to the 2. That's something that we really can't obviously it has no fantasy value, but if he is a more productive blocker, then it's just going to take away more touches from Dawson Knox, or more opportunities for him being on the field. That's the only way I could really see him kind of impacting Knox's value, because Knox proved last year that he can produce some sort of fantasy outlook when the ball is thrown at him. But it's just he's got to get those opportunities. I don't think that O.J. Howard can produce more opportunities than Knox.
Right. I'd agree with that as well. Last point I want to make, since we're on tight ends here. You talk about these late round targets. Obviously, you're going to get 16, 17 rounds in your fantasy draft. The Colts tight ends, I think, is interesting that I don't really see them. You got Mo Alley Cox.
I think it's just Mo Alley Cox. I think they drafted somebody, but it's just him.
Right. For the most part, it's Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods. And everybody knows Mo Alley Cox as a huge tight end. He's a monster. Jelani Woods is bigger than him by a couple inches and a couple pounds. And I know that one of them is going to be fantasy relevant. I mean, I think for the past 10 years, the Colts tight ends, they were relevant every game. You just couldn't pick the right one. So who knows? I mean, Matt Ryan there, we saw what he did with Hooper. We saw what he tried to do with Pitts last year. But there would be some interesting names popping up, I think, in that 14th, 15th round range to end your draft off. You never know, You know that they're involved in the offense. It's a run-first team with a good play action. And they got a QB upgrade. So I don't know. I feel like some of those those are two tight ends you could kind of draft either or late, maybe hit a big one on, something like that. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. We're talking about tight ends here, and I get excited about late round tight ends. I got to admit.
And I can't blame you. That's been the strat for most of us for years. But all right, I think we're prepared to wrap up right there. Dante, Mike, do you have anything else you want to add? Don't worry, Dante. Man. I'm getting to it.
Yeah.
I knew you were right. I knew you were there.
All right, fellas. Let me send us off here. I am Kyle, joined by my friends, my dear friends Mike and Dante.
Doing it the wrong way.
I'd be remiss if I missed out on promoting our boys or our fellows down here at Underdog Fantasy. Jump into some best ball, some props. I think they've got a bunch of baseball stuff going on, some golf. You can kind of jump into whatever you want. They got a ton of sports in there. But hop into some best ball, find one of us in a draft. I'm currently in a slow best ball mania draft right now. I'm loving it. I will probably ask you guys for help on this pick. But yeah, use code first seed and get a first deposit match. So if you log in first time, create your account, use promo code first seed, you deposit $100 and you get straight up free $100 back to you. So you put in $100, your account now has $200 in it just because you used code first seed. And that helps us, that helps you, it helps everybody involved, and you get to play fantasy football, best ball. And I love best ball because then I can draft and I don't have to look at that team until the end of the season and claim my money. So do it. Why not? It's fun. It's really fun. And it's really cool to just kind of actually draft with some meaning. I've been actually using it as kind of like a mock draft tool because you're drafting with people who actually want to be drafting. And I mean, you guys do too, but you get a full lobby of them. And I love it. So I've been in there all summer and I will continue to be in there all summer. So use code first seed, join us on there, have some fun. And then for first seed, I am Kyle, joined by my fellows, Dante and Mike. Have a great day.